Welcome to Indie Conversations. This is the video series that is supported by CSIF that helps highlight some of the local productions that are happening in and around Calgary. Today, I have the great pleasure to be joined by both Brock Davis Mitchell, the cinematographer and editor of Last Summer, as well as the director of that project, Barry Bilinsky. So to jump right into it here, I want to start with you, Barry. Where did the idea of this short originate?
The idea for the short came out of a series of explorations that we did with the youth at Taproot. So, different ideas of starting from a character, starting from a location, just like what are the different ways that they could start to have these things bubble up. So, that was like the work that we were doing. And then also the idea of what we wanted to do last summer, there was this idea for like a full on adaptation of a Breakfast Club. And I talked to them a bit about what an adaptation looks like and what it would take for us to make it our own. And so eventually those different themes started to weave together, and the characters that they had been conceiving started to come together into this different narrative that could still have a bit of that Breakfast Club flavor, but not necessarily be a full-on adaptation of that film.
This is starting to fill in some of the questions I had because I did notice on the Calgary International Film Festival page on Last Summer that there's 10 credited writers on this project. But that's also, I know, because it's part of Taproot Academy. So maybe you can fill in people with what Taproot is and how all that collaboration came together.
It's an organization, an academy that was spearheaded and conceived of by Tantu Cardinal, and it takes place out in Kikino Métis settlement. Brock and I have been working out there for a while, and one of the things that we really focused on was inspiring the young people to come up with their own stories, speak from their own experience, and then give them all the tools that they could have from screenwriting to cinematography, but predominantly acting to get them to get that out. So the reason why there's a whole whackload of writers on it is because everybody was writing little pieces of material and then putting it in together. And so I would go in and weave it with them. And then some themes would really take off when we run in that direction. Other things would become a different project. And so there's this really nice multiplicity of ideas that are sitting around for them to chew on. And this just happened to be one of them that came forward.
Brock, let me know how you got involved with this project.
I have a long story. I'll try to keep it short. There was an incredible opportunity to be involved with a project called the Indigenous Peoples Experience, which is an exhibit at Fort Edmonton Park. And I was asked to come be an editor on one of the projects there from a producer who I'd worked with in the past. And through the first few series of meetings, I got to meet Barry Bilinsky here, who was ultimately the full storyteller of the building, bringing all these different exhibits and different pieces and animations and films together. So I was one of many projects that made up the entire building. And so our collaboration on that project was quite extensive, a lot of education on all sides. We were doing something that none of us had done before, doing a project that took place across 9 LCD screens. It was really extensive, but told the story of so many people. There was hundreds of people within that video. So it just allowed us to really dive deep together, and our collaboration became really deep rooted and personal quite quickly. So then as we wrapped that project, and it was quite an emotional experience for all of us, I certainly walked away feeling like I had a friend in Barry. I had a new collaborator who I wanted to spend more time with. And sure enough, the next summer, Barry took me up on that and asked if I wanted to be a part of this new up and coming Actors Academy on Kikino Métis settlement. And I jumped at the chance, obviously, to be a part of something with youth and giving back and helping the next generation of artists come up is very rewarding and fulfilling. That was definitely enticing. But for me, it was to be next to one of my closest friends and be collaborating again. So that was 2021, and that took us now into our 4th summer here this year. Last summer being the film, last summer being one of 6 films we've made together in that process. So it was a truly amazing experience to grow together as collaborators. But now at this point, with last summer, this is the sixth film we've done with these youth, and to
Mm.
see them grow and see them take so much ownership in these films, I too now feel that all those youth and the members of Taproot are fellow collaborators as well.
I mean, this is a question for both of you because you've both now mentioned this idea of mentorship, which, from my perspective at least, is something that it seems like everyone kind of craves within the filmmaking world, especially in the indie world. I was speaking to this film student here very recently. They're going to school and they feel like they understand, like we've talked about all these great films. We understand how to like tell a story visually and how to write that into a script format. But some of like the actual like practical things, like how do I set up a C stand? Like what do I do with this lighting rig? Sometimes gets glossed over a whole lot. So I don't know if that's your experience as well, as like sometimes just those tangible practical skills just go a long way to help these students, these youth.
The reality is the amount of time it takes to be around, not just to show the skills, but to make those connections, develop trust, be present with them, listen to what they're interested in, have people have the fluidity to come in and do some things and then not be interested and go into something else. Like that has been a luxury with Taproot. It's because the way that people can kind of meander and find what they're really invested in is really beautiful, and it has that amount of time. So it's not something you can drop in like a power weekend and bring like full bell and whistles and talk a million miles an hour and just get everything out and hope that it sticks. Like there's sometimes, it's seasonal. Sometimes it's how people are feeling that day. And that's just really, it's a beautiful way that we've managed to work, where we just get to stick with it and let people keep coming back to the same things again and again until they fully pick it up. I mean, Brock holds that down really well because he always showed up and is always like hungry for an opportunity to explain something. But as soon as a question comes up, it might be simple, but it actually is, it boom, blows up into 5 or 6 other things. And that's, I think, the exciting thing about mentorship is you never know when that lesson's going to jump out at you. It's not scheduled for 8 o'clock on Monday morning.
Just to add to that, like Barry, I was talking about it with someone last night, how the fortunate part of these collaborations, it's been 4 years with the same youth. So to Barry's point, it's just like we had not just a full summer and coming back, it was several years. And so, like Barry said, people can change, and as they grow and mature in different ways, they're looking at the filmmaking process differently. Because certainly when they were 14 years old starting the program, acting seemed like the more tangible thing. It was the thing that they see more of all the time. And then by proxy, as we set up the environment and we really tried our best just to celebrate them as the artists they are, as the actors they are, and we took care of all the C-stand building and all the lights
Right.
around them. By proxy, they were taking that all in. So they worked up the courage 4 years later, and a lot of them are like hungry for that now too.
I just realized that we've gone all this time and we haven't really described what last summer even is. So, Barry, maybe you can give the quick elevator pitch of like, this is what last summer is about.
Geez, the elevator pitch of last summer. Yeah, last summer is this beautiful love story that is maybe not a love story, maybe a love story about two really close friends that think they have the entire summer to say goodbye, but it turns out they actually only have one night. And so that translates into, oh my God, we got to do something beautiful right now. But of course, all the friends get involved and turns into a big party. So that's at the heart of last summer. Somebody really trying to express their feelings, but everything gets muddy and in the way.
This is, of course, a short film that we're talking about here. Have you had a chance, either of you, have you had a chance to see this with a crowd?
So every film that's done at Taproot is first screened for the community. It's like that. The intention isn't so much to tell our stories outward, but to really reflect in. And so every project that we've done, gone to the closest cinema at St. Paul, which is like, what, an hour away from Kikino or 45 minutes away from Kikino. And that's where everybody goes to see all the new movies and everything. And so that we rent out that space and then screen the films. And then sometimes we'll screen the films from last year to sort of do a bit of a goodbye. And then the ones from this year we get screened. So that would have happened back in January when we finished those ones. And that was sort of our first send off. And it's always great to hear it. And all the parents and community members and, aunties and uncles and cookums and everybody are just like laughing or pointing out their kids and stuff. So it's a really great way to start it. And then after that, it's all gravy, people seeing it.
I wish I could tell people as we're recording this when this is going to be shown at the Calgary International Film Festival, but I don't know when that is yet. So we'll probably put that up on screen and in the description.
September 23rd.
Oh, okay, cool. Insider information.
Maybe I'm not supposed to say it, but go see it.
Oh, we'll find out. There's a big bleep that just happened when you said that. We've taken some time here, of course, and talked about like the benefit for the youth that went through this experience. But I do believe that every film that I work on is a learning experience for me as well. So I again want to know from both of you, what did you learn yourself from this experience?
Oh my gosh, I'll try not to get emotional because certainly I've learned more through this experience than any other point in time in my career, specifically collaborating with Barry. Barry's taught me to interject time into the process. I think for the mass majority of my career, I got in my own way a lot and certainly was future thinking versus present thinking about the product, thinking about what that product may bring opportunity wise and not focusing on process. And Barry's the one who's taught me that the most, to interject time, take time to sit and be in a circle with one another, to start the day, to see each other eye to eye, to communicate what we're going to achieve in that day, and more so just enjoy being together.
I mean, you learn so much working with youth, and I know that can be that can be such a privilege sometimes. But what I reminded myself of and what I kind of learned is just how important modeling, following your instincts is for actors, for crew, for team, for everybody. If you're out there and you're trying to follow things by the letter, something that you pre-planned the other day, and you're getting mad at people for not knowing what the hell is going on, like that system doesn't work. So, trying to ask people to be vulnerable without being able to be vulnerable yourself, or trying to ask people to be spontaneous and charismatic without being spontaneous yourself, it can be a real uphill battle.
All right. Well, for a last question, don't feel like this has to be something that is super recent or anything like that, but I want to know the last great movie you saw.
I mean, the first thing that came to mind was Zone of Interest.
Sure.
It was just the time taken to build up to a very clear moment that needs everything tied together, cashing that all in at that moment and allowing that to be the takeaway. Takes a lot of diligence. So I thought that movie was pretty great.
I've seen a lot of good movies ever since this one, but the last great one that stuck with me is The Iron Claw, the story of brotherhood. Certainly being an older brother, but also I consider myself a brother to a lot of my friends, including Barry. So that film just really just stuck me right in the heart. One of the greatest lines ever written in all of cinema, in my opinion. The last line of the movie, "I used to be a brother." It's like, come on.
No spoiler alerts or anything.
Well, thank you both for taking time out of your day to come and talk with me. If people wanted to see what you're up to, what your next projects are online, is there a way to follow you? Is there any social media channels that people can find you on?
I mean, I'm on Instagram, but it's mostly my cat.
Great.
But if you want to connect with me, you can always send me a message there.
Yeah, I mean, same. I'm kind of going through a Instagram overhaul, so there's not much to see over there right now. But a quick Google search and a bunch of the work comes up. I got all my portfolios on Vimeo. That's something I just wanted to add in terms of the screening of these films, is to see the change that happens in them as artists, to start connecting the dots of, oh, when I come up with something with my friends, it can affect other people other than ourselves.
Mhm.
within their community, but certainly they've had their films screened elsewhere. The confidence that you see them when they walk out of that theater is absolutely undeniably massive. They're 10 feet taller. It's incredible to see that ownership. I said it before, that ownership they have in themselves as artists of what I contribute can be celebrated and can be appreciated by others.